Welcome to the Wedco podcast, where wedding wisdom meets street smarts.
We're dishing out all the tips, tricks, and wedding goss to take your wedding to the next level.
Time to ditch the formalities and get this party started. Hello and welcome to the Wedco podcast. I'm Toga.
And I'm Joel, and we're here at the beautiful Greenview in Cabarita Beach.
And today we have Em from Days Like These events on the podcast with us. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Welcome.
Very exciting. Like ever since I've seen your stuff on Instagram, I was like, yes, we have to have her on.
100%.
So thank you very much for sliding in the DMs once I put out that shout out. I'm very excited.
This is fun. Do it.
And just that it worked, like between, I know you're crazy, like Sydney and back up here and everything like that, that it worked.
No,
amazing.
Perfectly to the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, you said you were in Sydney yesterday?
Sydney yesterday.
Crazy.
I'm back.
Far out. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Dad, for letting her.
That's right.
Well, I guess we should start a little bit about, I guess, the beginnings. Let's go back to the start of your brand and where it kind of began and where it's gone to now.
Look, it's a long story, but we'll cut it shorter. I've been in weddings 11 years now. About 11 years. It started, I was licensee of a pub, loved the hospitality side of things, but I was there long hours and I'm like, there's something else I could do. Thought the only way I could get out of that was to go and study. So I went and did events at TAFE, but I'd kind of ticked off all the boxes. So I only had to do 4 months to get a complete double diploma in events and tourism. So I kind of flew through it. My TAFE teacher said to me, what do you want to do when you're in events? I said, weddings looks like a good thing, like different to what I was doing in the hospitality side of things. And he said, you'll never make any money in weddings. And I went, I reckon I will. Yeah. So took it as a bit of a challenge and did my end of year paper on weddings and really thought I'm just going to go do it. Applied for a few jobs, got the first job that I applied for, which was a sales and events manager up at Jonah's at Whale Beach in Sydney. So really 5-star venue. Yeah. Walked in with no experience, just said I can do it. And the guy, Brad, who was the manager, goes, okay, you can do it. And I did really well. And I got into weddings. And then ironically, that TAFE teacher contacted me a few years later and asked me to do a walkthrough with his events students and said, can you show them what you can do with weddings? And I said, I told you I'd make money out of weddings. So that's how that kind of, I got the urge to do it just because someone said I couldn't do it.
Yep.
And then I did Jonah's. I was there for 8 years, on and off because I had the kids and whatnot. And then I thought, you know what, I'll just go and do my own thing for a bit more flexibility, I guess. Did kind of think I'd get a bit more work-life balance by doing my own thing. Absolute no.
So wrong.
So wrong. I was better off 9 to 5, Tuesday through Saturday at Jonah's. But no, I'm glad I went and did it. And then a few years ago, I left everyone else and just started doing Days Like These full-time.
Yep.
And that's kind of how that all happened. It's just it gradually needed events to work within my lifestyle. So now I've got 3 kids. There's no way I could go work for someone else and be stuck in an office 5 days a week. I just couldn't do it. So
yeah, I find that all the time. Like when you actually think about it, like I've been 13 years and you're like, I still really enjoy it, but like what would I do next? And I'm like, there's no way I could ever do a 9 to 5. Like there's just no chance I could ever go back to that.
No, I don't think once I had my first, I went back part-time. I only ever went back 3 days max after my first. And even then, the nights were long and you get up and you just had to go and put a face of makeup on and go and sit in front of some, high-end clients as well. Yep. And I did it because I had to do it. And then I had second child, did it again. And the third one, I'm like, I just really don't think I can just get up and do it.
Yeah.
Now I can work from home. I don't have to put many clothes on. It's much more comfortable. And I put a face of makeup on once a week. So it works well for me.
Yeah, perfect. And then so you've moved up to the Gold Coast now?
Yeah, we're up here now. We moved up 6 months ago for my husband's work. So, he's a physio for the Gold Coast Titans. So his job within, I guess the NRL is he could end up at any club. Okay. So my job had to become, I guess, a bit more flexible. Yep. Because we, want to stay together as a family. So I kind of follow where he has to be. But yeah, my Sydney team is I trust them with my life. So I trust them with my business. Awesome. I don't have to, micromanage too much. They'll probably be listening going, oh, yeah, right. But whatever. So I do a lot more, I'm on the Zooms and I'm doing what I can from the Goldie and then I just fly in and out of Sydney. Okay. For weddings that I've put my name on.
Yeah, for sure.
Can you fill us in about what's the team look like down in Sydney at the moment?
I have a beautiful team. I've had Sarah, who has been with me from the beginning. She's actually a good friend of ours and just kind of jumped on 10 years ago, and she's kind of the backbone of my business. And then I've got Lisa, who About 5 years ago, I dragged her into it as well. So they're kind of my two that I've, if someone needs to go to a site inspection tomorrow, I can guarantee one of them will go.
Yep.
And then I've got another few. I've got Ella, I've got Kate, I've got Ash, Sam. So I've got a really lovely team.
That's awesome.
Some of those just come and do weddings every a few times a year with me.
Yep.
Others, every week, 3 times a week. So
Yeah. And so are they like a few like on-day coordinators, or how does that work in the team?
We've got, I'm the wedding planner, I guess. I'm the one who does majority of the wedding planning, and then the girls are all on the day coordinators.
Yeah.
Okay.
If I was to not be able to plan it because I was sick or something, they're all very well qualified to do the same thing. But I like to do it. So, and that's something I can do from afar is the wedding planning part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, so like, is there certain venues within Sydney that you regular weddings at? Yeah.
So we're wedding planners, we are on-the-day coordinators, and we're also venue managers. So Bieber Farm in the Central Coast is kind of what started that for me. I did their wedding. It's just a beautiful private property in the Central Coast, and it's just stunning, overlooks its own private valley. So about, 5-6 years ago, we did the owner's wedding there, and he said, he's never there. I said, well, do you want to do weddings here? He said, yeah, I just don't have time. And then a month or so later, he called me and said, do you want to do them? And I said, yeah, well, sure. So that's how we started the venue managing side of things. And we've got Bombora Pavilion in Manly, which we look after as well. Shivico, which is a hatted restaurant in Paddington.
Yep.
Yeah.
We have in Mudgee, we've got Ralston, Olive Press and Putterbucker House. And then I have exclusively partnered with Jonah's at Whale Beach again because I guess, I know the ins and outs of Jonah's. So I've, got a little partnership with them as going as well. And we've actually just excitingly up here, Bubbaloo, Kingscliff, they've got us on board now. So we're just creating some sort of all-inclusive package with days like these.
Far out.
That seems like a flipping lot.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
We've got a few things happening. So
I'm flat out doing 30 weddings for myself. You got 30 weddings a week.
Well, I'd like 30 weddings a week. I'm available. We're ready to do it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Like how many weddings per year? Like is a typical year look at the moment?
Look, it's obviously been so different since COVID. And before COVID, it was days like these was a side hustle effectively where we were doing maybe 15 weddings a year, but that's because I was working 3 days a week for Jonah's. COVID happened. We then hit for 2022, we did 90 weddings. One day we had 7 weddings on one day. Look, a lot of those were postponements and we just had to make them work.
It work.
Yep.
And we made it work. So then I kind of got a bit of a taste for it and said, well, we made that work.
Yeah.
And that was crazy. Let's just do it again. Then this year's obviously a quieter year in the industry. We'll probably sit about 70 weddings.
Yeah.
But look, ideally when all the, interest rates do their thing and everyone has a bit more money, we could do over 120, I'd say.
Yeah.
Pretty happily.
Wow.
Oh, amazing.
I'd like to.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
How have you done many weddings up on the Gold Coast Way or around this region yet?
No, but I've booked 2.
Okay,
I've got
cool.
one on a Monday in a few weeks' time, which is really good up at Skyline Farm.
Yep.
So just, west of Brisbane. And then we've just booked another one, which is actually one of the Titans players, and that's kind of how I got my in through my husband. And we've booked their wedding, and they're getting married at Ancora actually, but they're doing the ceremony on a private property. So that's kind of where we will become most useful because Ancora doesn't really need us.
Yeah, okay.
Fair.
Be interesting to see your thoughts. I imagine the weddings being in Sydney versus the Gold Coast being quite different. So it's going to be interesting once you kind of have those weddings to see the difference between the two.
Yeah, I think I could totally agree, but we are from the Northern Beaches in Sydney, so I think that translates quite well up here.
Fair.
Yep.
We do a lot in the city now. But when we first started, we just did Palm Beach through Manly effectively, which I think, is the coast up here as well.
Yep.
So back to my roots.
I'm in South Golden and I feel like more than half the suburb is from Sydney.
Yeah. Honestly, we walk through the streets and we know everyone. So it's great.
Yeah, okay. Awesome. And then so looking to expand, I mean, you're already crazy big as it is already. How do these talks go where people are coming to you being like, hey, can you manage our venue as well? How does this come about?
Referrals. Everything not everything we do, a lot that we do comes from people being like, days like these were great with A, B and C, you should book them. And that's how we get a lot of our work.
Yep.
With the venues, it has been what they've seen us do.
Yeah.
The Bubbaloo was actually because my husband surfs too much and one of the big dogs there saw my husband's car and was like, I think we could do with do with your help. So shout out to Dax for surfing all the time.
On your Dax. Well, even talking on that, your bio, like it doesn't just say that you're wedding planners and coordinators and stuff. It says that you offer photography, event staff, and you're managing 4 venues and stuff. Do you want to elaborate on like that side of things?
Yeah. So when we started, before Dax was a physio, he was studying to be a physio. So on his side hustle, he was doing a lot of photography.
Yep.
With Eddie from Ripple Film was kind of how he got started. And then, we had days like these and he had a camera and knew how to shoot and I could do the planning. So it was a really good match for us to have this little business. He got a little bit busier. So, when he was working with us, he was shooting all the time. Then we started to get, we needed second photographers and whatnot. So we kind of grabbed a few more photographers and some of those are still working with us today. So we offer photography because as a wedding planner, I kind of like that I like to know all my suppliers. So for us, if we've got our photography team on site, I'm confident we won't miss a thing.
For sure.
The photographers I can just forget about because I know they're going to do it what I want them to do.
Yep.
I still really offer it, even though Dax isn't as much involved in the business anymore. I'm very good at it because I've kind of been managing that side of things, and our photographers all shoot in line with what we want. So, we still offer it. We still very much offer it, and we still probably do about 15 photography weddings, like shooting weddings a year.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah.
And so like you're taking those bookings and then I'm going to assume that that's physically through you guys, not just like through their photography brand?
No, so it comes through us and then we allocate the right photographer. We've got a few girls on site and like obviously location is important, whether they're close or not, but just the right photographer for that couple.
Yep.
And then I do the run sheets and everything, and we just basically, they can set up a Zoom if they like or meet in person, and then we just give our run sheet and, make it work.
I think that's great because some people just like kind of just like the one-stop shop.
Yeah,
like
definitely.
we've kind of talked about it before, where we've talked about the photographer and the videographer, and then the business that does both.
Yep.
And some people, they only want the person that does photography because they want the best of the best, same as video. And then some people just want the one-stop shop, and they just know that this photo and video team, they work together well and all those types of things. And then obviously then you've taken that to that next level where you're like, cool, we provide essentially all of it.
Well, that's it. Well, the reason I do keep photography on board, and look, it is a lot of work for me to do so because photography wasn't my thing. It was Dax, and I've still got him in the lounge room and I can ask him advice, but it's not something that comes naturally to me. So for me to keep it on board, it's because the venues that we manage, sometimes they just want, can you get me a photographer? Can you do this? And that's, we take absolutely beautiful photos and I absolutely love them, but some people like different things. Obviously, they like the different style, as we all know, and we don't change our style for our client. This is what it is. So if you've got us as a wedding planning client and our style isn't for you, that's not a problem. You don't have to book photography through us. It's just that we have it available. And there's other people who it suits them. And like I said, from the Northern Beaches, we shoot that kind of style, candid style photography.
Yep.
We know the tides and the winds really well. When it comes to like really big flashes and that, it's just not our thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I think we offer it as a really good add-on to planning, coordination, venues, anything.
And it comes back to like if they're already trusting you to plan their wedding, they're going to put their trust in you for that as well.
Absolutely. And we do find we've got a really good handful of people who've just come to us for photography, but most of the time it's a multi-service thing. They're planning clients, there's coordination, and they're our photography clients.
Have you added content creation on for you yet? Like I see a lot of planners are doing that now.
I haven't, but I think because it's still such a fresh service, there's so many around. Technology is not my thing. Like I said, photography is probably where the last 10 years I've been involved with it. That's probably where it ends for me. I'd rather partner with a creative content creator than bring it in-house.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then so everyone would want to get on the good books with someone like you. What makes a really good vendor to you where you're going to be like, you're going to recommend them to your clients?
For me, and I say this to everyone, it's about, one, communication. Like if I write an email and you write back really quickly, you've already got a big tick in my box. If it takes a long time for me to get a response, or I've had to hassle you a few times, you're already annoying me and I'm probably not going to continue to work with you. Secondly, I do a lot of networking events, and if I've met you and had a drink with you and we just had a really good time, or we've danced together and I'm like, you know what, you're a good person. And I like your work. Let's work together. So for me, it's about the personal connection with them. And look, that's not to say that I don't book other people because they've got fantastic work, but I do prefer to work with people I know who I've met.
Yeah. Who you trust and you're going to trust with your clients.
Yeah.
And it makes my job easier if I can trust and know, look, we've worked. Sometimes with the on-the-day coordination, it is tricky. We come in 8 weeks before the wedding, right?
Yeah.
The client has booked everything. And some of these, even we come in 4 weeks before because they've called us in an absolute panic and just need someone on the day. So what we're doing is it's happening more and more, I think, lately.
Definitely.
Like we're getting all the short lead weddings, which I love, absolutely love them. But we have to pull together all these random suppliers I've never met before and just really hope for the best. And so it's a lot more work for me. So I do like to minimise how much I have to work by creating a really nice supplier group to work with.
Yeah. Is there a pretty tight-knit community down in Sydney?
Yeah, there is. I think, look, I know I keep saying Northern Beaches, but we are...
Sorry, Northern Beaches.
Well, no, Sydney's a fantastic community, but our Northern Beaches community, we're really tight, really tight. And I think the ones that we kind of, I think even majority of the beaches, we've all been in it for 10 years. We all started together at the same time.
Yeah.
And we hung out through COVID. You know, we survived it and we're still together. And I love hanging out with all of them. And I'm very happy when I see them on my supplier list.
Yeah. We felt that same way when we were in Newcastle. Newcastle was insane how tight everyone was there.
Absolutely.
And then even I grew up in Melbourne and around Brunswick area, there used to be like a whole group of people where it felt the same as well.
Yeah. It's nice when you find your group, when you find your people. And I think, and Sydney's just in a bigger version of that. Like I've got suppliers now all over Sydney because I do more weddings within the city now. That I just think Sydney as a whole, like Newcastle's got their group, and we do a lot in the Hunter and Newcastle, so we still work with a lot of the guys as well.
Yeah.
And the South Coast have their little knit, and that's just, it's great. I love it. I love the industry.
Yeah.
What's your ideal wedding currently?
Oh gosh, do you know what? I don't care. I like all weddings. I really do. You know, we try not to do like the 250 plus weddings. I prefer to keep mine a little bit, you know, south of 200, but. That's just because it just becomes a bit of a bigger operation. I've got to get more staff on. I do like a wedding where one coordinator can just manage it.
Yeah.
What is a typical wedding down in the Northern Beaches for you at the moment? Like, is it 100?
It's about 100.
Yeah.
I'd say 100, 120. And that probably lends because a lot of the venues down there kind of cap out at 120.
Yeah.
So, but it's a nice size. I think that's a great size.
Yeah. Okay. You're saying you love networking. Do you want to touch a little bit on the amazing networking job that you're doing?
Yeah.
So to add to my list of many things that I do, we run and organise Lovefest events, and it started back in 2020. Actually, it did start when the world shut down. I didn't shut down. I was just like, what do we do now?
Byron Bay's still open. Let's do it.
We were stuck in Sydney. We couldn't do anything. We were stuck to our house.
Go back to Melbourne.
Well, no, thank you. Couldn't do this in Melbourne. So we kind of got stuck down there and into our house. And at the time, I had 4 and a 2-year-old. So my kids weren't at school. We weren't doing any homeschooling. I was literally just watching the Wiggles at home and I was losing my mind a bit. So I thought, there surely has to be a loophole that we can still do wedding things.
Yep.
But at the time when I thought about it, there was still a bit of flexibility in how many people could be together and what you could do. And you could still work. So I thought, let's create a styled shoot so we all still had content for the year because obviously we were losing content pretty quickly. And Bieber Farm, I was managing that property. I knew it was sitting there empty. I thought, let's go and do a shoot day.
Yep.
But instead of wasting all the beautiful stuff that we've put together, the table settings and all the food, let's sit down and enjoy it and be like a wedding guest.
Yeah.
And legally we could get away with it. So we did it and I ended up getting 60 people. It was probably about, 25 suppliers. And it was an outdoor space. I should add that. It was completely outdoors so that we were allowed to do it. And we did it. We all bumped in the day before. We had a bit of a night on the wines the night before, and then we did like an 8-hour shoot day.
Yeah,
got them. I had five of my photographers came. Like everyone just came together. We had cameras everywhere, video. There was no content creation at the time, so I was there doing all that. We did like a really beautiful shoot, and then we just sat down, had a long lunch with 60 of us in a beautiful teepee. We had wine suppliers that was sponsoring it and everything. And then we had a DJ and a saxophone and we just partied all night. And then We woke up. We had glamping tents. Actually, glamping tents got donated as well. So there was like all of us just glamping in a field.
And this is work? You said work.
It was all work. And if you look back, I've always wrote it was definitely work. And the next day we bumped out, and there's some of the best photos we've ever had because everyone was just creative and carefree because we could be. And so that was called Bieber Lovefest, and that was back in 2020. And everyone was calling for like, let's do it again, let's do it again. And the next year I was pregnant with my third, and I was like, well, if I'm not going to have fun, none of you are having fun. We're not doing this. So I didn't do it. Then 2022, we were all way too busy. Yeah. And then everyone was calling for it again last year. So I said, okay, let's do it. Did a Sydney one. We got 140 at Sydney. And then I thought, you know what? I'm moving to the Goldie. Let's do a Gold Coast one. So like 6 weeks later or something, I did a Gold Coast one at the Tropic.
Yep.
And then again this year we decided to do Sydney, Gold Coast, and then I just did one in Mudgee in New South Wales. So I think 3 is good. Yeah. And that was only 2 days ago. Sydney's next week, and then the Goldie's in a few weeks. So like networking for me, it's gotten bigger and better. But like I said, that's where I meet my best people. Like on the weekend, 2 days ago in Mudgee, really good example is that we ended up hanging out with the marquee guys, like from Cutter Lane. They were fantastic, but I never see them. Like they're setting up, I say hi, and then they're gone, right? They got to set up the tents. They came and ate lunch with us on Tuesday, had a few wines. We were dancing by the night, and it was so good. And now those guys, like, we love them. And I, in my head, well, Cutter Lane, they're my company to go to.
For sure.
They were such good people.
Yeah. I'm very similar. I did a wedding over in Hayman Island, and AV Ideas, Greg, the owner from that, like same thing. You never know any of them because they just set up lights or whatever they do. And then, we've got the boat ride over, we're having dinner together and we're like getting along, and then they're on the island with us. You like, you have breakfast with them, and you're just like, oh, like this is.
And they're good. And now they're always in your head. You're like, that's who we're going to book when we go there. And,
totally.
Yeah. And so that's kind of the reason I do Lovefest. There's no like financial gain for me. It's just, it's a really good way for us all to get together. It's a fun day. And that's how I honestly think my best weddings have come out of meeting these beautiful people.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I don't know if you're the same as me, but like already since having the podcast, I'll find like everyone I recommend is people we've sat down with here. Yeah. Because you've spent like an hour with them and you can actually know who they are, you know a bit of their backstory and everything like that. And straight away they're the first people that come to the front of your mind to be able to recommend to people as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so it is just having that time, because there is so many times at a wedding where, you're just like, hey, and that's it. And everyone's like rushing to get whatever they need to do get done.
As a wedding coordinator, I probably spend the most time with everyone. Like we spend a lot of time with photographers and the videographers mostly. So I love that. Like that's who, but there's people I don't like, the signage people, like the guys who do the signage. Yeah. They just deliver it. I don't even, there's no face to the brand. So I do just love to put faces to the brand.
Yeah, for sure.
Earlier you were talking about, you made a point that you do all the timelines and everything like that. Can you talk about like what makes a perfect timeline for your weddings?
Having me involved. I think
book me.
Yeah, book me. No, I've been doing a lot of, so the way days like these work, we offer, instead of the full planning package, which we can do, I offer it, you start with 10 hours, right? So they do a 10-hour package. One, it's budget friendly for those who need help but don't know what to do, where to go. They don't want to spend that full planning budget. So they package. So we do that, and I do a little timeline in it. So I think though, if you've got wedding planner involved, then you don't need to worry about your timeline as much, because again, we know our suppliers. Like for a good example, I've got Sydney Lovefest on Tuesday. We have been trying to go to print on the seating plans for weeks, but everyone keeps wanting to come and had to keep changing it. And so we only went to print yesterday for a Tuesday event. You can only achieve that in a wedding if you've got a wedding planner involved, So timelines are a really important thing, but I think having a wedding planner, we work on our own timelines. Like probably can't tell you how close we sometimes cut it, but that's just because we can.
Yeah.
So is that more timeline in the run up to the wedding?
Yeah, well, just anything. I think even if, you really want that, our client wants a particular supplier and they probably should have booked it 6 months ago on a basic timeline and they haven't, with a planner, you can probably get away with getting them. If you can't get that particular supplier, you're going to get someone really close that does a similar style. So that's just, I think timelines are really important.
Yep.
But when wedding planners get involved, I think we just do our own thing.
Yep.
And our own timeline.
What's such a benefit, in my opinion, for like a wedding planner is that like there still is a power dynamic within the wedding industry.
Yep.
And so you do have you have venues and you have wedding planners, and every other vendor underneath wants to kind of appease these two at the top.
I hope so.
No, but it's just the way that it works.
Yeah.
Like the feed down is from the top down to the rest of the vendors.
Yeah.
And so it makes sense that like, yeah, if you need to get a florist a late notice or whatever, everyone's going to want to impress you and they're going to go, above and beyond to help you out for a job, because then hopefully in the future there's going to be more work coming from you.
Absolutely. So I think that's our little loophole that I quite enjoy. I can get away with a bit more. But I think, look, we are at the, I guess, top of the food chain because we do, we can recommend somebody and they can get a job straight off the back of that, But I do think that all suppliers are the same, Sometimes people book their photographer first. They come to you first and say, I just want you, I've chosen my date.
Yep.
And you have the power then. You've got the power to recommend people, oh, you should get this wedding planner. Like, it's not just wedding planners that dictate that. It depends on the client and what they've booked first, really.
Yeah. And it's really interesting on that note is like us having the power to recommend, it almost has the ability to like almost shape what their wedding day looks like.
Absolutely.
Like you work with one celebrant and they're going to deliver their ceremony so different to someone else.
Yep.
Someone's going to be a bit more professional. Someone's going to be more chilled. An older person might be a little bit more formal.
Yeah.
Like it just has such a different way to like bring the vibe on the day.
Absolutely.
Which is unique.
It is unique. And I think, you meet your client and you do a Zoom or you do a face-to-face, whatever it is, you kind of get to know them. Like last night, really good example, I had a call from Hong Kong, Aussie couple, she's Chinese, he's from Australia, and they're getting married in Sydney and they're in Hong Kong. And he just goes, we don't know what to say. I said, have you booked anything? He's like, we've booked the venue and we do not know what to do. So now I said, send me some photos and I will just map out your day. And basically I will give him 2 suppliers for each one and say, pick.
Yeah.
So I have dictated the way their wedding will go because he didn't, not that he doesn't care, but he's just like, help.
Yeah, 100%.
For sure.
Yeah.
And I find that even from a photography point of view where, you are recommending, say, florists might come after us and stylists and celebrants. You do have a vested interest because you're like, I really hope you choose this florist, because if you choose this florist, I know I'm going to get epic photos.
Absolutely.
And so it's hard. Like you really want to kind of push towards here, but also not be too biased as well and know for like 2 or 3 different ones.
I always recommend, different budgets. Like, people have these budget when they start. Some of them are so unrealistic on both ends. Like some think they can really spend a little less and some think they're going to spend a lot and they don't. So I think I do give them kind of A, B and C, and it's like low, medium and high end budget, and to see where they land, because some people value photography and they want to put 8K into it and then they only want to put 3K behind the bar, and others are the other way around.
Yeah.
I feel like, is $3,000 not behind the bar not a lot?
Yeah, not in Sydney it's not. I don't know about up here.
I'm like 2 beers and I'm good.
Or maybe it's just my friends, I don't know.
$3,000 sounds like a lot.
No, we need
like
about
that'll
eight,
last
I'd
me.
say.
That's me for the year.
But even thinking of that, like I've just started building up a preferred supply list for myself.
Yeah.
I haven't in the past because a lot of my work's been in Melbourne and I kind of fly in and fly out of there. But now next year's looking really heavy for kind of Gold Coast, Byron area.
Yeah.
And so it's exciting to kind of have this list built up of and actually think about like what people do I actually like to work with and that I do want to be working with a lot. And it's just exciting to be able to, I guess, to do that. And I feel like that is going to add so much value for your couples as well, having that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I get, they ask me, or some of my couples, they've been scrolling Instagram, they've got Pinterest, they know what they want, they know the suppliers they want to reach out to. Others, like I said, my couple last night, have no idea what they want and they're too busy planning the 600-person Chinese wedding for them to really worry about the 100-person one in Australia. So I have my supplier list. I send it to them. Sometimes I even just don't send it and I just break that one. I use my supplier list and give them a few. Like I really just take it down a notch.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think having the supplier list, for me, my supplier list is who I have worked with.
Yeah.
And not just partied with, but I have worked with them and I've seen what they
Worked with.
Sure. How'd it be before?
We did work. We did. My photos are great. They're still on my website. That's how good they are.
That was the start of the blurry trend.
It was. It was us. It was my 5 photographers.
It's because you were pissed. But I think it's interesting. It's a point I wanted to note on was how you said you've got your supplier list. I've worked with a couple of, or I'm close with a couple of planners, and one of them in particular has copped flack in the past of being like, "Oh, you're very click based," you know, and it's like you're very like you only work with the people like you've worked with, and what like how do I get involved in that? And it's like I understand why, like, I just understand it so much of like, it's not just they're my good friend or we go drinking or any of that. Like, there's just so much more to it that like, one in particular, I won't say who it was, a photographer, this person used to recommend, he's quite good in the industry, but he ended up losing images to, I don't think it was a wedding, I think it was like a fashion shoot or something.
Yeah.
So a little less serious. I mean, maybe, at least you can redo the shoot.
Well, yeah.
But he ended up losing the shoot and I was just like, oh, like, and so it's like little things like that if you were just super attention to detail type of person, that probably isn't going to happen. And I think there's like so many of those different variables that those are the reasons why people have their preferred supplier list rather than just like, oh, they're a homie.
No, well, that's it. Well, up here, that we've just moved up here. So I haven't got a supply list for up here yet. I'm finding my people. As a wedding planner, it's a lot.
You got Lovefest coming up.
Well, I got Lovefest coming up. You're on. It's fine. You're on.
Tall trees. You got all the vendors.
You got to really impress me. Yeah. Do well. Well, I haven't. Up here, the wedding planners, it is, and I'm not going to say the word clicky because it's not clicky. It's just the girls, I did my 10 years in Sydney and that's why I've got my people. They've done their time up here. I'm just a new kid on the block effectively. Look, I know what I'm doing. Yeah. I do everything, I like to think, and I juggle a lot of balls and I don't drop many. So I think we're quite good, but people will only see that once we do some. So, up here, Lovefest is quite important for me to network. So I'm glad I've just put on my own party and you're all attending it so I can network. But also I'm doing a styled shoot in a few weeks' time. Giving my time, I offered a free wedding to do it just so I can say I've done the weddings up here so people can get to know me, and that's the best way to do it. Yep. And then, hopefully I get in and I'm, people are booking me because we're days like these and that's, they have to have us kind of thing. And that's what I want up here. Yep. I haven't got the team, but I will create a team up here if we're starting to book, many, many weddings a week. So. Yep.
And it'll be I don't know if this is the right word, and I'm going to use it because I sound professional, but I feel like it would be an expedited process up here. Yep. Is that the right word?
Yeah.
Look at me. But yeah, I feel like you've already got the business. You've already learned so much over the last 10 years. Your Instagram looks amazing. Your website looks good. Like you've already checked a whole bunch of boxes. Yep. So I feel like the process of like you getting your feet settled in up here is going to be way easier.
I think, we've probably come up at the wrong time of the industry just because it is in the engagement gap, I guess it's called, when there's no one getting engaged. So it's just harder. So I actually did go and get a new website. I'd done the website myself for 8 years. Yep. Finally went and got the girls at Engage Creative to get me a new website with and new branding and new colouring. So I've done that ready for these new people and getting engaged. They can see that, we're worth it. We're worth out the outlay of the money and the time and we've got you. So I think we've done that. And then the Instagram, I've also reneged the reins on that, and I've got Mon doing my days like these events one, and then I've got Maddie who does all the venues. So I used to do everything myself until quite recently, and I've decided, you know what, I'll be my worst enemy. Because with the venues, you need to keep up with constant posts, and I was doing 10 at a time just because I'd had time to sit down and do it. So now I've got a team doing things.
Yeah, perfect.
I've managed to find other things to do, so I'm just as busy. Yeah. But I've got people helping me now. So, do
you want to talk a little bit about that, like the work-life balance? Like obviously, mother of 3 as well. Yeah. And flying to Sydney and everywhere in between. Like, how do you manage that?
I don't sleep.
Yeah, overrated.
I drink a bit of wine. Yeah. No, but I
just live on cocaine.
Yeah. I've
Northern beaches.
Yes, I don't know. I've got people who they call me Superwoman, but behind the scenes, there's no super. It's absolutely it's organised chaos. Your wedding is very organised, but my home life's organised chaos. I've got kids going to cheerleading, to footy, to soccer, to AFL, to jiu-jitsu. We've got people everywhere. My husband's home, but he does travel with the team, so he's not home. Yep. But I take that opportunity to, when I get on a plane and go to Sydney, I do a lot of meetings and stuff, and it's a good opportunity for me to get away from my kids, but in a nice way, just to I can just focus on work for a few days. So a lot of the stuff I do, you'll find I email you at 1 a.m. and that's my time though, 9 p.m. till 1 a.m. I sit on the couch, everyone's asleep, I'm watching the Kardashians, I'm doing my emails, and I'm in my happy zone.
Joel loves Kardashians.
I love them. That's my thing.
My wife watches it.
Oh,
I brought it up a few times. And
I'm 21 seasons deep and I'm not going anywhere.
Shannon's probably is too. I don't know. Shannon is.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
But I find that's the thing too, like when I travel Melbourne a lot as well, like you have those hours where you can be up to 10, 11 at night and just getting work done. So then when you get back home with the kids, you can actually hang out with the kids and not have everything up here.
I flew in yesterday we went to Mudgee on Monday night. I got the 8 o'clock flight, from the Goldie down to Sydney, slept on a girlfriend's couch because we had to get up to go to Mudgee at 5 a.m, 4-hour drive, did the shoot, got back in the car at 6 a.m. I was on the midday flight out and I was back here for school pickup yesterday afternoon. So, but in that time I had time at the airport and I did 2 hours worth of work and, I had to catch the bus at one point for an hour and I was knocking out a run sheet on the bus. So that's just where I manage my time in the holes that I can. And then when I'm home with the kids, I'm present enough. And then by 9 p.m, if they're not in bed, bad luck, mummy's got to work.
Yeah.
So,
How good are laptops?
Yeah.
laptops are great.
Imagine if you still had a plug-in thing
I
in the
know.
wall.
I'm on the bus using the bus Wi-Fi at one point.
Buses have Wi-Fi?
In Sydney they do.
True.
The B1. The B1 to the Northern Beaches. Could you expect anything less? No other bus does, just ours.
Just for you.
Just for us.
You guys were the free during COVID, going back to that.
Yeah.
You go swimming and go do whatever you want. Everywhere else in Sydney, no.
No. But you can. God's country, it's fine.
It's fine.
One of the things I wanted to scoot back on, just before you were talking about in this time of like the engagement gap or whatever we want to call it.
Yeah.
And you've used this time. We were talking about it before of like there's going to be. We predict, this is our personal opinions, but we think that over this next 12-ish months, maybe a little bit more or whatever, there's going to be a lot of people from the industry that drop off.
Yeah.
And there's the people that say, oh, like we were talking about it and I was like, I'm not doing any advertising, marketing and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm getting leads generically and I'm still busy. And whereas there's the other side of the fence where like Steve's, he's advertising, he's getting a bunch of leads and now he's booking work. But then there's also a bunch of people that don't do anything but love to complain.
Yes.
And they're like, oh, well, why are you guys getting all of these things? And I just want to, and that sort of thing. And then there's people, like yourself where you're utilizing this time. And obviously a bunch of people did that during COVID as well. But, they utilize that time to work on their brand and work on their business and get a bunch of systems and things in place, redo their website, all those types of things. And I think that's probably I think it's a really good thing. There's a bunch of people coming into the industry. There's a celebrant that we have recently got to know pretty well. She came into this industry, smashed business, had a business coach, all these things, booked like 200 weddings, I think, in the first year, just like crushed it.
Yeah.
And it's just like, if that doesn't put a fire under your bum, like what will?
Exactly.
So I think it's good, like seeing people going, cool, times are tough. Let's utilize this time to be able to do X, Y, Z.
Well, that's it. I think you've got to spend money to make money. And I think even though this has probably been even the darker period than COVID, to be honest, because with COVID, we knew people were postponing, right? Yeah, sure. Right now, the inquiries are thin. They come in when they come in. And, I do have a pretty good success rate in the booking situation, but, we're not the cheapest out there.
Yeah.
We're also not the highest end. We kind of sit quite well, but there's always going to be someone cheaper or someone newer. Yeah. So I've got to just back myself for my brand and what we do and how long I've been doing it. And I just say to them, what you can pay less to them, but I can do what they can do in half the time. Yeah. And you can get more for bang for your buck. So for me, yes, I spent a bucket load of money this year on websites and getting new staff and just doing more rebranding in hope that when the engagement gap, I guess, is over, we're ready. I'm ready to go. Our workflows are good to go. So we're just ready for it now. Whereas before, it was all great, but it was all very, I did everything. I guess it was all, and I was sick of looking at my own website. Yeah. Sick of seeing this. I'm like, oh, it looks so messy. Yeah. I'm ready for that absolute boom in inquiries.
I still feel like 2025 is going to be busy. And I was saying this is a big shift from 2 months ago when I wasn't advertising. Yep. And then I was like, same thing. I was like, I had one booking for 2025 about 6 weeks ago. Yep. And then, I'm paying like an advertising agency to do the ads and everything like that. Yep. And I booked, now it's 11 in the last 5 weeks.
That's crazy. That's great.
So it's like, it just makes you realize though, like I'd probably get 2 to 3 leads per month organically. Yep. and I got 41 last month from the ads.
So good.
So it's like people are still getting married, but I was so deep in the no one's getting married anymore.
Yeah.
It's out of my hands. Like, what can I do? But like, people are still getting married.
Yeah, there's just less of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is probably less money as well, I guess, backing them. But I think a lot of our inquiries coming in for September, October next year.
Yep.
And I think people are hoping that the shift in the economy is going to happen by then.
In by then. Yeah.
So I think, our beginning of next year, I haven't really looked, but I don't know, there might be 12 or 15 weddings, but we would normally have about 30. So
Yep.
beginning of next year might hurt us. But in saying that, the short leads,
Yes,
they
for
come,
sure.
they come in hard and fast, and I could have 40 weddings, So like,
The amount of times I tell my wife, like, oh yeah, I've got a really quiet January. And then we get there and she's like, you're never home.
jokes. I think like I
He's
kind of
out
just
serving
waiting.
with text.
That's where the best marketing is done.
exactly.
Your car just sits there down at D-Bar and you're fine. I just think I look far forward, but then I kind of don't, because I think we just book things. Once the weather warms up, people get more excited to book weddings
Yeah,
as
for
well.
sure.
So right now people are hibernating.
Yep.
I like to hibernate. Come September when, spring springs. Spring is spring, isn't it? September?
Yeah, that'll
Yeah.
be.
Spring is spring. Yes.
Spring is sprung. I think it's like I'm ready for those inquiries now.
For sure.
Is it you the same? Is it kind of always that January, December kind of Christmas period you get super busy with inquiries?
Crazy. And so, but we're also, I think we must be the only company, at least in Sydney, that takes weddings over that time of year, because I had, 8 weddings between like Christmas and the 3rd of January. And I've got to do another New Year's Eve wedding. I did New Year's Eve wedding last year. So I must be the only one taking them. And my team decide they don't want to work over that period either. So I work then, and then I also do all the inquiries. So our January, we go camping every year for 10 days with like 50 of our closest friends and kids. And I'm there.
The Bieber Farm crew.
Just in the tent.
Yes, I am. I'm honestly like just trying to get. And my husband doesn't get to come, so it's just me trying to supervise my children while I'm like doing Zoom calls, and because that's when all the inquiries come in after Christmas.
Yeah.
Cool. Do you see any big shifts happening with weddings at the moment? Like we've talked about before, kind of taking away the portrait shoot a little bit more and more focusing on the party. Do you see any?
I feel like I don't know. Well, I'll just talk from a Sydney market because I still haven't.
We're probably leading the way.
I was going to say, yeah.
Yeah, well, I'd say we've done the party. The party was a big thing for the last few years.
Yeah.
And people were adamant, I'm just here to have a good time. We just want to party. So we've done that. I see now we're going back to more traditional, more formal weddings. And that's not just the wedding itself, it's the styling as well. Like you'll see a lot of the guys doing styled shoots at the moment are doing really like dark and moody and big bows and really quite formal settings.
Yep.
So we've done the party down there, I think.
Okay. So they'll probably come, another year or two up here.
Come up here, and then it might turn to a bit more formal. And look, I love a party, but I do love the formal sit down. I think it's for a wedding. I like it. You get to do speeches. You get to hear, obviously you don't want 27 speeches, but like 4 is great.
Yep.
And then you get to have your little dance party at the end. But I think I do think that kind of wedding is great.
Yeah.
Coming back to before, like being from, creating your business in Sydney, I feel like that's got to give you a one-up booking weddings here.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same as like, I've shot weddings in Europe. And
Yes.
then all of a sudden people want to book you back here.
Absolutely.
I feel like it's,
Well, I'd like, if that's the case, that's great. That would be fabulous. And look, like I said, I think it does translate quite well because I was Northern Beaches. We weren't city-based. So I think although I've got that Sydney, like all those trends, I know what's happening down there. I think
What you were doing is still similar.
still similar, but like it's quite fast-paced down there. So I think,
sure.
we can take on double up here.
Yeah.
It's pretty fast down there.
And you're going to be ahead of the trends, of what's happening here.
Yeah, because-
Everything you're putting out is going to be
We're still very much like all our weddings, and I will continue to have Sydney weddings. So we'll do Sydney and Gold Coast forever. Like we're just here now. So we've expanded. It's like it's not one or the other, it's both.
Yep.
So we'll always be doing 2.
Yep. And then so would it ever get to the point where you have a secondary planner underneath yourself where you kind of take the bigger jobs and then have a secondary planner?
I've kind of got them. Like the girls can do that. But if I started booking heaps up here, then I'd look into that or getting the girls on like full time as such. Right now they're just kind of, and we're all mums. So I've kind of hired an army of mums.
That's awesome.
Because I do believe that, we can juggle and we can do it all. But then I also get it. I've got 3. So I get when the kids are sick and I'm like, don't worry, like I'll do it or it can wait till next week. So I'd like to think I'm a pretty good boss. I've got a bit of flexibility for my girls, but Yeah, I'd say I think 95% of my team are all parents.
Yeah, awesome.
That's so good. My
Yeah.
sister really struggled with that when she had a kid and like trying to get back into the workforce, but nothing was flexible or anything like that.
No.
It's tough to get back in there.
I'm actually probably more flexible with the mums than I am with my younger staff.
Yeah.
Because like,
Yeah.
I'm like, girls, I get it, you know, especially in winter. And winter's quiet anyway, but I'm like, kids get sick and like you're the person they want to have with them in bed, you know?
Yeah.
You don't need to be on the computer. We'll figure it out.
Yep. 18-year-olds get to work.
Go to work.
Yeah, go to work.
They don't want to work that long though. The mums are happy to work because they're either happy to get away from the kids or that's just what they do. But the young ones don't want to work that long.
Yeah, they just want to party.
My sore
Don't want
back.
to hit up people.
My sore
I'm like,
back.
don't even. I
I need
know.
an ergonomic chair.
I need to stand up to work.
Need the blue light glasses.
Gen, whatever they are these
I know.
days. I don't even know what they are.
Gen ABC. I don't know.
Probably are.
Probably is.
Awesome. All right. Would you have anything else to add before we wrap up?
No, it's been fun.
Where can people find you if they want to find all the deets?
You can find us at dayslikethese.events.com or Days Like These Events on Instagram, and then it'll link you to every other, you know, all the venues, everything that we do.
Cool. And there's still a couple tickets left for the Gold Coast Lovefest.
Gold Coast is about 15 tickets left.
Yeah, awesome.
I said I would close ticket sales on Tuesday, but I'm happy to push it. Like I said, I can get the signage and stuff printed a little closer to the event time. So, 15 tickets.
Brilliant.
Beautiful. Awesome.
Amazing.
Thank you
Thanks,
so
guys.
much.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to the Wedco podcast. We're dropping a fresh episode every week featuring industry professionals dishing out the wedding wisdom you need to turn those dreams into reality. Make sure you are following us on social media, you have those notifications turned on so we can help plan your wedding day. Your dream wedding day just got a whole lot easier. Thanks for listening.